Our next speaker, Zehra from Wells Fargo, is a keynote speaker. She's a VP at Wells Fargo. Please welcome to the stage. And she will be joined by Aya, who is a PhD student here at Stanford, who after Zehra's short introductory talk will take her through some Q&A and a fireside chat. So welcome both to the podium, and thanks so much, Zehra, for being here with us today. And Aya.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Zehra Venugopal, CIO of Fraud and Claims at Wells Fargo. And today I would like to talk to you about a topic I'm very passionate about. It is how do we detect and prevent fraud? Fraud is a serious concern in the industry, and it negatively impacts many individuals as well as businesses. Fraud can manifest itself in multiple ways. It could be a stolen identity. It could be a malware downloaded on one's device that takes over the device and causes damage. It could be an illegal or unauthorized account access that was propagated by cybercriminals or fraudsters to be able to glean information that could be obtained from phishing or social engineering attempts. Fraud has evolved throughout the years. With the rise in capabilities in machine learning and AI, fraudsters have additional tools in their toolkit to be able to propagate additional attacks. While they continue to come up with different ways on how they're going to propagate those attacks, the attacks themselves have changed as well. Previously, fraud attacks used to be more led in smaller scale by humans. Now it is full-on, large-scale attack by machines. And how does one respond to those kind of attacks is fraudsters continue to leverage additional capabilities, as we were discussing a little bit earlier, AI, and be able to impersonate individuals and businesses to cause further damage and gain information significantly in the industry to be able to come up with further attacks and come up with different schemes. Traditional fraud detection and prevention strategies focused on specific data and specific events. So what we mean by that is, for example, customers that were impacted by fraud, or accounts that were compromised, or it could be a specific incident, for example, an IP address that kept on propagating fraud. Those traditional defense strategies focused on those specific data and events are no longer effective, and therefore they have to be revised and improved to be able to deliver additional capabilities. So how does the industry respond to an attack like that, but we don't understand the data because it is happening at such large scale and it's no longer managed by humans, kind of against a little bit earlier talk today, talking about rules and rule-based decisioning. All those are out the window at this point. So how do we look at it? We gotta look at data holistically. We gotta look at all the connective tissue across the data. We gotta look at the linkages. We gotta be able to understand the data and build models that can learn not only data that they know, but also unsupervised learning to be able to detect anomalies and respond to those changing patterns. An effective strategy for fraud, like the foundation of how to do fraud defenses and strategies, comes down to one thing: it's data. How do we have access to the right data at the right time to drive the right strategies? So today I would like to talk to you a little bit about one of the large attacks in the industry. It's kind of common, and unfortunately many people have seen or been victim to it, is what is called an account takeover fraud. What's an account takeover fraud? So it is when a cybercriminal or a fraudster gets stolen credentials and accesses one's account without the legitimate account owner's knowledge, or they'll have no idea about it. So how do they go about doing that? There are multiple ways cybercriminals or fraudsters get access to account information. One of them is they're in the dark web, there's compromised and stolen credentials. They can go ahead and have access to those and utilize them to propagate fraud. Another one is what is called in the industry as credential stuffing, meaning they use bots in a brute force attack manner, testing login combinations, user ID and passwords. And when they succeed, then they have access to that information and they can propagate further fraud. So for this account takeover fraud, how does it work? Let's say fraudsters got a hold of the credentials via the dark web. These are stolen credentials or compromised credentials, but they're real credentials to begin with. They access someone's account. As soon as they access the account, two things happen. The first one is that Now they've accessed the account, they can block access of the legitimate owner of your account so they can control the account and do whatever they would like to do. The second thing is that when you think about it, we all have so many accounts. It's not like one or two or three. And not to lose track of our account credentials, we tend to use them either the same or similar. So now it creates a snowball effect is that once they get into one account and they know a lot of information about the individuals, they can get more information through social engineering, they can get it from public information, correlate all the data just like we tried to do to defend against fraud, and come up with different ways that they can access that multiple accounts that the individual has. Now the fraud is significantly evolved to become a much bigger event than it started. So account takeover, the account is accessed, the account access of the legitimate owner is blocked. Now what comes next is how do they propagate fraud? There are multiple ways they can go about doing that and how they propagate that. For example, if it's a financial account that they've accessed, they can drain the funds. They can take all the money, it's gone. Fraudsters access the account, they took over, they took it. The second thing could be once they access an account, there's so much information they can get, and they can correlate just like we do. So they can devise phishing campaigns with the information they got from the account and other information that they correlated to be able to propagate fraud on your friends, family, colleagues, depending on the type of account they got access to. And the third one is that now they have all this information and they know you as well as they know that you know yourselves pretty much. They can open new accounts. So they can propagate further fraud. They can ask for new credit cards. They can max those out, leaving the victims responsible for the damages. So what does the industry do in response to an attack like this? There are multiple ways that defense strategies are developed to be able to respond to attacks of this nature. And it's industry best practice is a multi-pronged strategy. That means we don't utilize one thing to make a decision, but there are multiple components and decision points that come in to be able to come up with an effective strategy. Behavioral biometric models have proven to be very effective. So what behavioral biometric models means is that how does one interact with one's device? That could be your phone, that could be your tablet, iPad, it could be a laptop. How do you interact with that to access an account? And behavioral biometric models are very effective in determining whether it's a human or a bot trying to access that account. There is wealth of information when one accesses an account using one of the devices. It could be the swipe pattern. It could be if you're using a mouse, are you left-handed or right-handed? How fast do you type? Do you hesitate when you type? So not only it is possible to determine when someone's accessing that account, whether it's a human or a bot, there's also additional information that's gleaned there that is this the human I was expecting? Or is it someone else? So the more you interact with the same, for example, institutions, then you'll be able to get more information, and we have more information to be able to predict whether it's you or it's someone else. Another very effective model that is used is what's called device identity or device profiling. What that means is that what is the device that's being used to access this account? So there's a lot of information associated with the device too, which is it could be the MAC address. It's the geolocation of the device. It's the IP address of the device. Or is this a device that we know? The goal is to develop a device DNA to be able to say, I know this or I don't know this. Or if we don't know the device, in some cases, they're blacklisted devices, meaning devices that are known to be propagated for fraud previously, and therefore that needs to be taken into account while decisioning as well. And the third one is, all these things happen behind the scenes, and we develop, the industry develops machine learning models for biometrics or device profiling. The best is that plug these into an industry consortium model to be able to understand trends at a larger scale. So we have both the best of both worlds when we have the internal knowledge of behavior of the customer, the devices that they use, plugged into an industry trend model, what we call a composite machine learning strategy. When we look at these examples, the common thing is we need data. We need a lot of data. We need data on customer spend patterns, their transactions, their histories, how often do they call us, what do they call us about, what's normal and what's not normal. And we need to be able to decision all these, analyze them and decision them in near real time. So for that, we need high computing. With GPUs, graphical processing units, it is possible to train the models in a very quick manner with millions and billions of pieces of data. Another very effective strategy for machine learning is gradient boosting, which has proven to be very effective in predictions. So what are some of those predictions that it's used for? It is, for example, credit decisioning. Is it customer behavior? Whether it's seen as normal or anomaly. It could be the transactions. The use cases are quite wide. When we look at the gradient boosting and we see that a subset of the information or subset of the data it's not able to predict, then there are different techniques that we need to use to be able to understand what are some of those capabilities and how can we reflect on them a little bit differently. Kind of gets into more the anomaly detection side, is that why is it not performing the way it's supposed to be? Then we lean on additional techniques like models powered with graph databases, a more visual representation to see what is happening and why it's happening. And all those lead to a different kind of way to be able to understand what are some of the patterns and how do we respond to them. Fraud is quite impactful, and we try to do as much as we can in the background, meaning there's a lot of silent, what we call silent, or in the background without interaction directly with the customer. So in those cases, for example, the behavioral biometric, the device profiling, those are all examples of when the interaction is not directly done with the customer, but with behind the scenes or with the individual. In some cases, it is important to be able to circumvent the fraud and make sure that we can with certainty determine whether it is or is not a fraudulent activity. In those cases, interaction with the customer is necessary. An industry-wide technique is, for example, we all get that every day, one-time passcode, one-time PIN. That's delivered to one's phone or one's email to be able to confirm that is this fraudulent or not. And that kind of closes the feedback loop, which is good. Fraud is an ever-moving target. It is quite impactful, so the industry continues to change and evolve, just like fraud attacks continue to change and evolve. We're always looking at our models, making sure that we can do things better and continuously adapting and changing and learning. So it's a very innovative field, driven by necessity, and also being on the front foot when it comes to attacks that are propagated on us. These are some of the things that I want to share with you on fraud, and we're going to have a conversation with Aya. I hope it was informative and useful to share a little bit about what goes on in the industry, what are some of the challenges that we're seeing.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Zehra. Hi, Zehra. It's great to be here with you today. Thank you for such an exciting talk. Fraud is a very dynamic field. It's very changing, and I'm assuming it's still male-dominated. Maybe I'd like to start by rewinding on to your early starts. How did you find your interest in this field, and how did that grow?
Yeah, I guess maybe we go a little bit back from fraud. I always was interested in technical fields, and for me, there was no other way. Mm-hmm. And maybe a little bit being lazy, too, because mathematics came very easy to me. So I was like, I just want to do that because I enjoy it, and it's easy for me. And then from there, it grew on. So technology has been my passion, and it is important that technology is used to help people. And fraud, I started working on it for several years now, initially with different aspects, more on the vendor side, providing solutions that help solve for fraud, and then evolving to the CIO role for a large institution for fraud. It is very rewarding when we can protect our customers and detect and prevent fraud and make sure they don't become victims to fraud. But it's also challenging. Given the changing trends and evolving strategies, we always have to be, we always have to be ready with all the changes in the industry and making sure we have the appropriate response. So to the previous speaker's points is like, we have to learn all the time. We can't just stand still and saying, I know what I need to know and I can do this job forever. It's not the case. We always have to look for different ways to evolve and learn.
Thank you so much. That sounds like a very organic growth of interest in the area. I'm also curious if you can tell us a bit about one of the most influential figures in your life, your grandmother, and how she influenced your early starts.
Yeah, my grandmother was an amazing person. She was such a generous spirit and encouraging. And I think that kind of led me to make some of the decisions in my life and in my career that I wasn't afraid to try anything new, is because she always instilled in me is you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. There's no limit to what you can accomplish. It's just the limit that you impose on yourself. That was kind of her mentality. Is super empowering, as you can imagine, and making sure that it's fine to try anything. So I remember actually starting with her encouragement. When I was 15 years old, I was going to a French school in Turkey. So we were learning French just like we would learn it in France, the same education. But I mean, we started late, like let's say 11, 12 years old. And I wanted to do this project. It was a job, but I wanted to get it really badly, to translate a dictionary from French to Turkish. And I went for an interview. I was 15 years old, and I said I would like to do that, and the gentleman in charge said, I don't think so. You don't have enough experience. And I remember challenging him like yesterday, saying, I do, and I want to. Give me a chance. Try me. Test me. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I remember him, like, it's just so clear in my mind. He laughed, not in a mean way. He just laughed. And he said, fine, translate these and bring them back tomorrow. And that was a long night. I took those home and like studied all night long to do justice to them. But at the end, I got the job. And that was like, yeah, I guess we can do anything if we put our minds to it. Doesn't mean I didn't have to do the work, and it was painful, but it is very empowering to believe in yourself and have someone who believes in you in return. So that was my grandmother for me. A lot of amazing woman figures in my life. I was very, very lucky with that. And when I look around this room, I see amazing women. So we can all be my grandmother to each other, to be able to uplift and progress ourselves and support one another.
Amazing. Thank you, Zehra's grandma. And maybe on that note, I'm curious, as you progressed through your career, did you actively seek mentorship from others, and how did your view on mentorship change?
So I think I would say mentorship is very important. It is think of your mentor as a sponsor for your career, a champion for you. And I see a lot of people having one mentor, but I would suggest you have multiple, because there are different things mentors are helpful for. For example, someone who can be amazing in communication, another one very technically focused and can guide your career. There's different aspects the different mentors can bring. So I would strongly recommend everyone to have more than one. And continue to nurture and nourish those relationships. In some cases, we tend to be very close with our mentors, and then when that relationship, somebody changes the job or no longer there, that relationship doesn't progress anymore, but I would strongly recommend that you do that. I personally did not have a mentor for a long time, and then mentorship came in the form of a friendship/mentorship plus support for me later in life, and later in my career, I should say. And she's an amazing woman, and I think what I saw in her is aspects of my grandmother too, a little bit. It's just the sponsorship and belief. I think I'm a strong believer that when someone believes in us, we excel and we really rise to the occasion because we're so happy somebody's actually like supporting us in that capacity. And that was the person, Mary Embreck is the person that gave me that strength and belief, which I'm very thankful for.
Amazing. I fully agree with you. And on that note of strength and belief and support, what are your thoughts on the shared responsibilities of women, allies, executives in industry when it comes to empowering women like us to pursue these fields like data and fraud and then persist in them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of awareness in the industry for women in technology and supporting those and creating the right opportunities. I think it's kind of like there's significant efforts. For example, when we have interviews, there are diverse panels. Want to get opinion from a large large cross-section. It is not just one and done. It's also important that when it's time for promotions or other things, there's definitely considerations and opportunities. I see a very positive trend from when I started my career to where we are now. And also acknowledging that it is an issue that needs to be fixed, and opportunities should be given to women in technology roles equally. It was their male counterparts is definitely a topic that's on our minds that we continue to focus on. And I think for any problem to get better is there has to be understanding and willingness to solve. I had seen in previous, my experience throughout the years, there were even efforts that analyzing the job descriptions to see, especially in technology, what are some of the characteristics of the job description that could be not seen as positive by women, and how do we change those? A lot of the words that are used in job descriptions used to be, for example, drive, and is the fast-moving pace and things. There were some more words that were chosen that would not resonate well with women. There's even awareness at that level, which is a good thing. And I think I would just say, on the women who are in this room and who are listening to us around the world, is it's up to you to also express your ambitions. And there's nothing wrong with expressing ambitions. Own your ambitions and express them, and not just to one person as in confiding to your managers. You just socialize them. Socialize them to whoever would listen to you, because you need to be able to get your intentions out there so it can be met by others to be able to deliver those, make good on those intentions. So I would just say it's like a good handshake, but a lot of positive movement in the industry, so I'm very excited about that.
Amazing. That's a very powerful reflection. You obviously seem like you have a lot of passion for your field, data and fraud, and also for supporting women in the field. Yeah. At this point in your accomplished career, what drives you?
I want to help people. I got into technology, and I even considered other career choices earlier in my life, but it was all around helping people. So I'm here. I had an amazing career, and I have an amazing career, and I love what I do, and I'll continue to do that. But I'm here for other women. I want to make sure that I can help others progress in their careers, and I want to make sure that I am that figure that you can come to confide or for support. I'm very passionate about that, so I want to make sure that we can pave the way for the next generation. I know a lot of these topics were covered a little bit earlier in the things too, but we mean it, and that's important. We mean it so you can take us up on it, and we mean it because we want to make sure that you have a better future and you can progress further in your careers, and we're there to support you. So I'm lucky to be in that position in my career now.
Amazing. And you've used a metaphor before that I've loved about horror stories and roller coasters and working in data and fraud. Do you want to elaborate on that?
I was talking to someone that's more like it was an anecdote that I never thought I would make the connection, is I was talking to someone and they were like, well, fraud, it's kind of scary. Yes, it is scary. And it is very dynamic. Yes, it is. It's like, well, you're a thrill seeker. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not a thrill seeker. And then they were asking me what kind of stuff I liked. And I do love horror movies and horror stories and roller coaster rides. And they're like, okay, maybe there's a correlation there. So, but never thought about it that way.
Amazing. Awesome. And then to wrap up, what is one important life lesson that you would want to leave us with today as a piece of advice?
So maybe multiple things is we spend a lot of time at work. We just do lots and lots of hours. It's very important that you do what you like and don't settle for it. It's fine to explore multiple avenues and then pick one that suits you most. And do that. And it's got to make you happy, because you can't just come in and day out and not be happy and be your best self. So you have to be authentic to yourself, pick something that you like, and follow your passion. And the other thing that I had heard a lot in discussions with younger colleagues, many of you are here as well that fall in that category. Do not think that there's one path to success, and that success is measured in a certain way, that it's always measured in money. That's not true. It's always measured in something else. That is also not true. You define your own success. But there's no one path to it. There's twists and turns. Like when I was starting my career, did I think this is what I was going to do and I was going to be here? Absolutely not. I did not know. But I took chances and I tried things, and some things I loved and others I didn't, then I changed. So I would advise you to do that same as well. Do not settle, and look to explore stuff. And it's perfectly fine to do stuff for a year and you don't like it, then you switch. That's what it is for. But it's very important that you continue to evolve. You take us up on our offers, that we want to help, and we're here to support. There are many, many amazing people. And Christina Draper, who kind of facilitated this event for us at Wells Fargo, she's an amazing figure as well for us, and we really appreciate all the support that we can get.
This was incredible. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Aya.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Zehra and Aya.